This is game week as the Jaguars will go on the road to face the Houston Texans. I'll talk about who has to be stars, who has to grow up quickly, and what veterans have to play really, really well for this team to succeed. And I'll do it all on today's version of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, Jaguar fans? Welcome to another edition of Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's game week. It's time to get excited about football actually starting and counting. I'll tell you some things today that Urban Meyer spoke about yesterday for his team as they prepare to travel on the road to face the Houston Texans for game one. I'll tell you in segment two, who I think has to be a superstar for the Jaguars to be successful. In segment three, I'm losing my train of thought here. In segment three, I'll tell you who has to grow up quickly, what young players has to grow up quickly, and what veteran player has to be that consistent veteran for this team that the team leans on in key moments. We'll do all of that here today, but let's not bury the lead. It's game week. College football started and got you guys all started up on seeing real games matter, real football games matter with fans in the stands for the first time in a long time. A lot of fans, not necessarily spaced out. But the big ticket is the NFL, and the NFL is coming up starting on Thursday with the Super Bowl champion Bucs opening the season against the Cowboys. But the most important thing for me is the Jaguars are going to be in a situation where they're actually going to be starting something new, something fresh and something new. So it really is a situation where we're really putting something to bed here. We're putting the past to bed, and the past, it seems like it's lasted for an entire quarter century. And we're starting something new and something fresh here in Jacksonville. I tell you what, when you want to start something new and something fresh, make sure you go to rockauto.com too for all your car parts and accessories. Nothing more important than getting you and your family back and forth where you need to go safely. And you can do that with parts and accessories from rockauto.com. Jacksonville. What do we see right now as a team? Urban Meyer spoke yesterday. He talked about the need for speed. He talked about speed being the premium thing that he wants to be associated with this football team. In fact, he pretty much made it clear that he doesn't want a slow football team. He doesn't want a football team that does not have speed on the outside. He says, to paraphrase what he says, I don't even want to be associated with it. Do they have enough speed right now? Don't know. I don't know. You can have track speed and you can have football speed. You can have guys that play fast. I think with the athleticism part of it is one thing, but the ability to play fast because you're confident and know who you are and what you are, and are you sudden on the football field? We'll have to see this weekend. I do like the fact that Tyron Johnson gives them that element. But this is where they're going to probably miss Travis Etienne a little bit in that role. But DJ Chark coming back gives them another level of explosiveness too and catch radius. So the one thing that he discussed yesterday in his presser that he really wanted to hammer home was the speed aspect of this football team. So it's going to be important that they find that ability to separate, because that's where your chunk plays are going to come from. Speed allows you to score quickly, and it also allows you to never be considered out of a football game. So critical things that we're going to be looking forward to, and that's going to be evident right away. That's one of the things that's who he wants to be, and whether or not they're good enough at that, you're going to have week one. It's going to be pretty evident right away if they have enough speed. So you can talk about who you want to be, but you can also talk about who you are. Now, do I think they did enough in that area in the offseason? I would have liked them to address it. They believe picking Travis Etienne, made him more explosive, but also they also believe that adding Philip Dorsett. See, that's the part I wasn't really keen on the Philip Dorsett signing. And it's not personal. It's just that I think he's fast and he's been around, but he hasn't been able to really, really put it together on the field for the Jaguars. It's not like he's a young guy anymore. So I don't think it appears that they prioritize speed, or maybe they did and they just couldn't get a lot of guys. Maybe they went after Curtis Samuel and they couldn't get him on board here. Maybe they went and found out that the price for Kenny Golladay was too high. And maybe there were some other teams or some other players that they tried to go after. So they didn't necessarily sacrifice how good the player actually was in the draft. And they didn't just sell out for speed. Like one of the guys that I was real high on was Marquez Stevenson, who had a really, really good season for Buffalo. And they have a lot of people up there that run like Marquez. But sometimes speed is something you can't ever have enough of. If they don't have enough speed, it's because they were already overly committed to guys who aren't fast on their roster. And when you have, it's not like recruiting where you can go out and overload these positions, especially when you've already committed guaranteed money on offense to certain players. So we'll see if they're fast enough. And with him talking about speed so much, that tells you that it's a premium. So we'll know right away when we watch them play if they have what it takes this year, or if they're just have to worry about it and get it going next year. You can't get it. You couldn't get everything this offseason. We are going to look at who has to be a star for them in segment 2. I'm going to name maybe one or two players. Segment 3, like I promised you, is going to be all about it's going to be all about who has to step up and who has to grow up really, really fast. And not only who has to grow up really, really fast, but what veterans can we look at that are going to have to be the best version of themselves in order for this team to be successful. And I will get to all of that stuff starting in segment 2 here on Locked On Jaguars on a Tuesday. I'm going to tell you about betonline.ag because it's that time again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, props, and contests, including online's biggest $500,000 NFL contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest open now at BetOnline. Head to the website and use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. Be sure to take advantage of their opening day super promo. Make a bet on the Thursday game between the Cowboys and the Bucks, and if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when signing up and using NFL promo code, the promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, from football to basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait. Take advantage now of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is your online sportsbook experts. Your promo code is locked on. All right, man, we're going to roll along here and talk about who has to be a star. Reminds me of old Billy Davis Jr., Marilyn McCoo song. You don't have to be a star, baby, to be in my show. The Jaguars need somebody to be a star if they're going to try to get to the show, and the show meaning the playoffs this year. I'm going to give it to you right now. I think Josh Allen has to be a stud. I think Josh Allen has to be a double-digit sack guy. I think he has to get 12 to 15 sacks and to just be an absolute menace, causing the quarterback to have to throw the ball before he wants to throw the football. I really believe that if that happens, then the Jaguars will really, really have a lot of success, because I think what's going to happen is it's going to cause someone to piggyback off of that. Who's that? That's the second guy that I think is going to be good, and that's Devon Hamilton. I really do like what I've seen from Devon Hamilton in the preseason, as well as the limited time that he played last year before he sustained an injury. I think he's a big, physical, mean, nasty guy that knows how to move, and he's the type of player that will cause you to have more success than you anticipate having, because he's so big and because he's so physical. So, yeah, Josh Allen to me is number one, and I think that there will be an effect that will allow Devon Hamilton to be the second player. And if you get two of those guys on that line of scrimmage, it'll really bode well for the Jaguars because one of the things that they did was really revamp the defense. If you get those two guys up front, and I know Josh is technically considered a linebacker, but he's going to be right up on the line as an edge rusher. They would have probably succeeded in one of the first things that Urban Meyer tried to do when he took over this team, and that is to make that defensive line, make that front one of the top 25% in the top 25 percentile, meaning one of the top 8 out of the 32. That's something that he was very pointed about, and that's something that they really went hard at. I think you get a great player, and then you get an almost great player, and then you're going to get guys like Roy Robertson Harris. You're really going to allow those guys to turn loose also. It'll also make up for any deficiencies that you might have on other parts of your team, especially in the secondary. But the main thing that having stud players like that on defense, especially up front, that can chase the quarterback and stop the run, what you do is you get teams in long down and distance situations, which forces those teams to be put in a situation where they're not sustaining drives and they're not using time. And it gives your offense more chances to be successful because they'll actually have more chances to try to be successful. So yeah, for Josh Allen absolutely has to be the superstar. And if he's able to do that, someone who will capitalize off of that, to me, is Devon Hamilton. Now, offensively, Trevor has to be the superstar. But he doesn't have to be the superstar in a way that makes him a top 5 quarterback right now. But I do think he should play well enough to be considered in the upper half of quarterbacks. That means 16, at least have the type of season where, like Justin Herbert did last year. Nobody's saying that Justin Herbert was a top 5 quarterback, but he was being put into the top half and probably into the top 10 quarterbacks in the league because of the way that he played. So I do think Trevor is a guy that has to do that. And I think James Robinson also, because now with Travis Etienne out, I think there's more of a load that's going to go on him. His backup, which is Carlos Hyde, is not really a game breaker. So I think James Robinson has a chance because he makes people miss. And even though he's not fast, he plays fast. So I think James Robinson has to also be the guy, if he's going to get 17, 18 touches a game, to make the most of it for this team to be absolutely successful. Who has to be better quicker than you anticipate? Now, I just mentioned Trevor, so it's not going to be Trevor, because I think Trevor, because he's the quarterback, he's going to have more opportunities to be good because he'll touch the ball every single play on offense. But who has to be better, and what veterans have to actually show up and be the better version of themselves? Because one thing about a solid NFL player is he's not always the best player, but he's never the worst player. So, but you do want a guy to be who he is to be at his best version for this team to be successful. I'll tell you who those guys are in segment number 3 here on Locked On Jaguars. This episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models of vehicles, it's now impossible for you to go to your local chain auto parts store and that they have all of your parts stocked. Why endure pointless or seemingly intimidating questions like asking you how big your engine is, as if all of us know that, and wait while the person behind the counter orders parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry. Save time and money when using rockauto.com. Why choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto is a family-owned business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. The prices are reliably low for every single customer, even if you're not a pro. So go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in the box where they're going to ask you, how did you hear about us? Make sure you let them know that Locked On is where you heard about it. So we want them to know that we sent you there. So it's an amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need are at rockauto.com. Also want to let you guys know about DirecTV Stream. I said Scream. DirecTV Stream. Get your TV together. I love the way they say that. All right. Does this sound familiar? You got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you got your neighbors, best friends, cousins log in for the good stuff. Well, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called Direct Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. I know you like that. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion. And here's my favorite term again: get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can now learn more about that at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device is required, and content varies by package. All right, man, pushing along here on a Tuesday for Locked On Jaguars. And like always, thank you for tuning in. Let's talk about some guys that have to be really, really good. Those guys that have to be really, really good and be the best version of themselves. We'll go with left tackle Cam Robinson. He's been up and down a little bit for his career, but I think you get an appreciation for how good he is when you watch the rookie struggle a little bit. And you watch teams around the league that have offensive line problems, then you start realizing why they kept Cam Robinson. He's not as bad as you think. He's not as bad as a lot of us thought. In fact, he can be downright good when he's healthy and he's ready to go. The key is to get that entire offensive line on the same page. And that's why he has to be the better version of himself. A.J. Cann has to be the better version of himself. Jawan Taylor has to be the best version of himself that we haven't seen often enough. And Andrew Norwell has to be the best version of himself. Now, Brandon Linder's fine. But all of those other guys, that's going to be the key to this football team. If they can play without penalties, if they can keep a minimum long down and distance situations, if they can absolutely keep 16 Trevor Lawrence standing up, and then they can create running holes for the running backs. I know it's a lot to ask, but it just has to be done, because nothing makes your team look worse than an offensive line that does not have themselves together. And I really, truly believe that for this team to really, really be good, those guys all have to be very, very good. The corners. Shaq Griffin has to be what they wanted him to be when they signed him. He had some tough times in the preseason, but I do think when the regular season comes around, those guys play a little bit harder and probably a little closer and a little more aggressive. He has to be lights out. I think C.J. Henderson has to continue what we've seen, and that is being available, being ready to go, being locked in, and let his talent speak for itself. I think he can be an absolute superstar in this NFL, in the NFL. The young guys that have to grow up really quick, I'm going to go with Andre Cisco. I think Andre Cisco, he missed some football. I think he needs to grow up really, really fast in order for the Jaguars to really, really be good. And I think he'll earn that trust. He's listed as an or starter with Dewey Wingard. I just do believe that when push comes to shove, they're going to need the talent and athleticism of the third-round pick from Syracuse on the field for the Jaguars if they're going to be successful. Offensively, skill position-wise, DJ Chark needs to be the best version of himself. That's a lot, man, I'm giving y'all, but these to me are the keys to the team, because when Urban starts talking about speed and explosiveness, and you saw him working a lot one-on-one with DJ Chark early in the preseason before DJ Chark was out with a hand injury, they need him to be that dude, because the Jaguars are going to be looking for speed every single year. Urban said every year, every offseason, they're going to look for more and more speed. They're just at a point where they have to decide right now if DJ Chark is the guy or not, because he's in a contract year. They have to see what it is and what he brings to the table. Is he that guy you're going to give a big number to? Is he the guy you'll give somewhat of a number to, but then have to go out and actually address the wide receiver position in some other way with free agency? There's a lot there's a lot at stake for him, and there's a lot at stake for the Jaguars to find out exactly who and what DJ Chark is because it's going to matter. It's going to matter for how successful they are this year. It's also going to probably matter how they decide to move forward in the offseason. Because like I said, at some point, if you're going to be a good team, the best players that you have at these positions on bad teams might become your second or third best player by the time you get good. So these are the things that I think have to happen. Some of the things we're looking forward to. We'll give you some more content as the week goes on and then as news comes out. One good thing that you can think about, Duke Johnson was added to the practice squad. I think that's just to get him up to speed before probably at some point activating him in week 2 or week 3 to take a look-see at Duke as a change of pace sort of pass-catching running back out of the backfield. So I'm looking forward to what he has to offer. We're going to be here every day, man, all this week, bringing you all the information to preview this game from Houston. We have a crossover episode, too, with my buddies from Houston that we'll do. You remember those, the in-season crossovers. Well, we resume that this week, so we'll have Locked On Texans on with Locked On Jaguars and give you a crossover edition here on YouTube. Now, remember, Locked On, all of our shows on the Locked On Podcast Network are free on every platform. There's no secret. You don't have to pay for anything. On every platform, these things are free. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube page, too, at Locked On Jaguars. Hit that subscribe and hit that like button for me. And before you go to Bet Online, make sure you check out the Locked On Bets podcast with your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling, so you can get all the daily picks and the blowout specials and the wrong team favorite picks and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by betonline.ag, wherever you get your podcasts. All right, man, we'll be back here tomorrow. I'm glad you guys tuned in for the drive time edition here of Locked On Jaguars. I am Tony Wiggins, here every day. You guys continue to take care of each other like I always say, and I will see you at some point tomorrow morning for our Wednesday show. Take care until tomorrow.